Hey guys, this time around I'm going to go through my Super Nintendo collection. The Super Nintendo is my favorite console of all time. I think it's by far it has some of the best games of all time on that thing. I love the controller. I love how much of a step up it was from the NES. I grew up with it. I owned it for about a year, I'd say. I didn't own it for too long because basically it was slightly before my time, um, and I got rid of it quickly to get an N64 because I was really obsessed with the Nintendo 64. But I had a lot of great times with the Super Nintendo, and I'll always remember, the fun memories I had with it and all the great games. A lot of the games I actually didn't play until I got into emulators. I'm not into them anymore, but I used to be, and that's where I played a lot of the really awesome Super Nintendo games, and that kind of made me take a look back into the system and get one again. And I'd been getting games since then, and there's some of my favorite games of all time are on this system. The amount of good games on the Super Nintendo is absolutely insane. I love it. It's the Super Nintendo is just the best, of course, in my opinion. So with that, I'll get started. I'm going to start with the boxed games. I only have four. In my area, finding boxed Super Nintendo games is pretty much impossible, so my only options are eBay, and when I do go on eBay to get Super Nintendo games, I usually go cartridge-only, and that's most of my collection is cartridge-only, because boxed Super Nintendo games are just way too expensive. Like, ideally, I would like to have the boxes and manuals for all my games, but in terms of, like, Super Nintendo and NES games, it's far too expensive, so for most of the games, I did just settle for cartridge-only. But we've got Chrono Trigger first. You can tell, yeah, there's a sticker there. I gotta get that off. It's not the greatest condition, and there's no manual. But I got this on eBay for it was like $60, which I know box copies of this game go for far more than that, so I thought that was a good deal. And the cartridge itself is mint. The game itself, masterpiece, one of the greatest games of all time. I love it. It's maybe a bit short, but all the different endings give just tons of replay value. The storyline's amazing, and the soundtrack. The soundtrack in this game is my favorite soundtrack of all time. I love every song on this game. There's so many brilliant tracks. Every time I play this game, the music just sends chills down my spine. It's just phenomenal music in this. But this game, just a masterpiece. I love it to death. One of the best games on the Super Nintendo. Next, we got Incantation. Really diehard Super Nintendo collectors know that getting a complete copy of this game is actually a huge pain in the ass. It's actually one of the rarest Super Nintendo games. I got lucky with this and actually got it at this retail store. It was basically a retail store. They had a bunch of Super Nintendo games. This retail store was in Toronto. It's called Video Games Plus. Where is it? There's a price sticker still on there. As you can see, it was $29.99, which this actually goes anywhere from, I've seen it go for around the $3.50 range on eBay for a complete copy. So that's, for $30, it's a good deal. The game itself, it's just a typical platformer. It reminds me of Mega Man in a way, in that you shoot in the way you shoot. The controls are a bit iffy. They're really floaty, and the jumping is quite weird, and the level designs are kind of strange. But I don't know, this game's okay. It's not bad, I don't think. I may be selling this, though, because, I don't know, it's probably not really worth having in the collection, considering it's not the greatest game. It just happens to be rare. This is kind of a beat-up copy, Ultima Runes of Virtue 2. I haven't played this yet. I got this quite recently in a Super Nintendo lot. It is complete, it's just kind of crushed. I've heard this seems pretty cool. These old school RPGs like this, like in terms of this style, I find them kind of hard to get into, so we'll see. But I'll definitely be playing this sometime soon. And my final boxed Super Nintendo game, Sonic Blast Man 2. This is actually another pretty uncommon Super Nintendo game. It can be worth a decent amount complete. It's basically similar to a Ninja Turtles game. It's just a side-scrolling beat-em-up. Pretty fun two-player, but nothing to write home about. Okay, and that's all my boxed games, so now I'll get into the cartridge-only games, which is the rest of my collection. Next we got Spider-Man, X-Men, what's this? Spider-Man, X-Men, Arcade's Revenge. I played this briefly. Uh, I got stuck really early. I don't know, the level design, I couldn't find out where to go, where I was supposed to go. Pretty generic side-scrolling platformer. There's a cool webbing type or swinging type ability you can do, but I don't know. This game didn't really impress me that much. Rocco's Modern Life, another platformer, seemed pretty basic and bland to me. Didn't just like the previous game. I just played this briefly. Most of these games that aren't really super high quality, I got a lot of these games in a lot off Kijiji, so a lot of these games I'm probably going to sell because I'm going for a quality over quantity collection for Super Nintendo. Cool Spot, sorry, another platformer. This one's a bit better. Really, I don't know, I found this kind of hard. I couldn't get very far into it, but it seems okay. D-Force, this seems really crappy, a crappy shoot 'em up type game. Like I've played I'm not even big into shoot 'em ups, and I've played tons of them better than this. I think this game's kind of crappy. Mecha Robot Golf. This is a weird game. I guess golf with robots. I'm not too into golf games that much, at least for the old Super Nintendo, old consoles. I couldn't really get into this. Jungle Book, terrible platformer. Like the level design in this game is terrible. Like there's so many leap of faith jumps you have to make. You have no idea where you're going. The controls are stiff. This is a piece of shit. Arrow the Acrobat. This is a pretty fun game. It's a cool little side-scrolling platformer where you're kind of going through circus environments. Really nice controls in this game. It's hard as hell, though. I think I still prefer the second one, though. I don't have that one yet, but I have played it before, and I really like that one. This one's still good. Daffy Duck, The Marvin Missions. I like this game. This game's pretty fun. You get to basically buy different weapons, and it's another side-scrolling platformer shooter, kind of similar to a Mega Man game. I don't like how when you get hit in this, you get knocked back. I always hate that kind of stuff. And this game's really hard too, but this game's pretty fun. WWF Royal Rumble. I love these old Super Nintendo wrestling games. They're so fun to play with another player when you have a friend over. Other than that, though, by yourself, not so much. It's not as fun. Maximum Carnage, very generic beat 'em up type game. I don't really find this game that fun. Bob, kind of a weird Mega Man-ish side-scrolling shooter. Like, this game is ridiculously hard. I can't get far in this game at all. It seems pretty fun, though, if you can get good at it. Rocky Rodent. This game is pretty fun, too. You get, like, these different haircuts, and they give you, like, abilities. It's a pretty standard platformer, 2D side-scrolling platformer. Like, there's a lot of these on the Super Nintendo, but this one's pretty fun. Battletoads and Battle Maniacs. I love this game. I love all the Battletoads games. Yeah, they're hard as hell, but they're actually pretty fun, too. This game, I've heard it's a remake of the first one. I don't know. This game's weird. It's not quite a remake of the first one. It kind of feels like its own game. It's not quite as hard as the NES one, but this game is still really tough. The hover bike stage in this game is like near impossible. I just suck at it so much. But really fun game. One of my favorites that I own, at least, Sunset Riders. This is getting up there in price, anywhere from like $40 to $50 on eBay. Really fun Contra-style game. It was in the arcades. Really fun two-player, just going around shooting everybody, taking down criminals. Really, really fun game. Lufia and the Fortress of Doom. I actually got lucky and got this in the Kijiji lot, and it worked out to about, like, it was like 22 games, I think, for $45. So I got this quite cheap. Unfortunately, the save battery is dead in this game, so I do have to replace that. I don't know when I'll replace that. It kind of sucked too, because I was playing this game. I got a couple hours into it, shut it off, came back to it, and oh, my save file is gone. And it was a shame, because I was really liking this. This game is really fun. It's a bit simplistic, maybe by today's standards. The battle system is your typical turn-based. There's random encounters. Very, very basic, but still a lot of fun. Mega Man X, fantastic game. I love this game. Not my favorite in the X series, but I love the X series almost just as much as the original series. And this is actually, it technically wasn't the game that introduced me to it, but this is the popular one. This is the one everyone loves, and I can definitely see why. Some fantastic level designs, great bosses, a nice challenge, a whole lot of fun. Pac-Man 2: The New Adventures. This game is really weird. It's quite ahead of its time, actually. It's kind of like a game where your character moves and you can kind of shoot different things in the environment, and it's kind of like an on-rails type adventure game. It's quite odd. I couldn't really get into it, but I definitely respect this game and appreciate what it's trying to do, and definitely what it tried to do back in the day. And of course, no Super Nintendo collection can be without Super Mario All-Stars. I do prefer the NES versions. These ones look better, but I find the controls are a bit stiff in these ones compared to the NES games. I don't know what it is, I just find the controls stiff. But this is worth it just for the lost levels alone. And, you have to have this. X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. This game's actually pretty cool. It reminds me of Mega Man a bit, in terms of the music at least. I know you can see that yellow sticker there. I gotta get that off. You basically choose your X-Men, you go through these side-scrolling beat-em-up type levels. I couldn't beat any of them. This game is ridiculously hard. Like, this game kicked my ass. It's still a pretty fun game, though. Mortal Kombat. This game is pretty atrocious. The port of this, at least for Super Nintendo. No blood. The visuals are really crappy. The sound is bad. The fighting is crappy. I don't know. I think this is a pretty terrible game. Mickey Mouse and the Great Circus Mystery. I know Magical Quest is pretty popular, the game before this. I played this one as a kid, so this one holds more nostalgic value to me. Really fun, maybe a bit too easy, side-scrolling platformer that actually has 2 players on the same screen, which is really fun. But some really cool bosses, great levels, fantastic music, nice visuals, Another fantastic game from Capcom on the Super Nintendo. Like, Capcom just put out so many great games back on the Super Nintendo and NES, and this is no exception. One of my favorite games on the Super Nintendo, Super Mario World 2: Yoshi's Island. This is a true masterpiece. It really, for the time, this game was so creative in how the levels worked. I mean, it's kind of like a puzzle platformer a bit. I'm sure most people have played this, but it's got one of my favorite soundtracks. The music in this game is so good. Like, it's just amazing. I love the visual style to this game. The baby's crying didn't annoy me or anything like people think it does. There's a nice challenge to this game. Like, call me crazy, I actually prefer this to Super Mario World. I played this as a kid too. I played this to death when I was a kid. I never owned it. I would always borrow it from a friend. But just a classic game. I love this game. Unfortunately, the DS sequel, Yoshi's Island DS, was nowhere near as good. But this, oh man, such a great game. A really underrated game on the system, I think. The Seventh Saga, Japanese RPG. I'm not going to talk too much on this because I'm planning on doing a review of this game with gameplay footage. But I'll just say it's a really awesome, underrated Japanese RPG, notorious for its difficulty. SWAT Cats. This is actually another uncommon Super Nintendo game. It's a typical side-scrolling platformer. It's kind of boring. I didn't I didn't get into it that much. It's another game I'm probably going to sell at some point. Then we have Earthbound. I would have loved to have the big box version of this with the strategy guide, but that's way too expensive. Even the cart-only copy of this is getting really pricey. What can I say about Earthbound? It's one of my favorite games of all time. I love everything about it. I love just the charm, the humor, the setting. The battle system I quite like. It's maybe a bit simplistic, but I love the roll counter, the rolling kind of system where your health kind of rolls like a jackpot kind of thing. So you can kind of save yourself before you completely die and pull off moves before your health rolls down to 0. It's not too long of a game, but that's fine. I like it that way. The soundtrack in this game is so good too. I love the soundtrack. It's another one of those games I played when I was a kid. It was actually, believe it or not, one of the first RPGs I ever played. It's probably the second RPG I ever played. I sucked at it back in the day. I never got very far because this game is actually fairly challenging. It's got a nice difficulty level. Again, I love everything about this game. And Mother 3, I really wish they'd bring that over here, but of course they'll never do it. I did play that on an emulator. I loved that game too. I really like the Mother series. Not so much the first game, but Earthbound and Mother 3 are both fantastic games, I think. Of course, all in my opinion. Because I know some people don't like this game so much. It's almost a love it or hate it type game at this point. I don't think many people think this game's okay. Either I think you love this game or you hate this game. I happen to love it. Captain America and the Avengers, and this game's kind of crappy. Mega Man X2, like Mega Man X before it, another amazing game in the series. Not much is different with this one, but I think overall it's a better designed game in terms of the levels and the bosses and the challenge. I like it actually better than X. Really, one of the best side-scrollers on the Super Nintendo, I'd say, right here. Amazing game. Getting pricey. If you're not a Mega Man fan, I wouldn't suggest paying the ridiculous prices this game goes for, but if you are a Mega Man fan, this is a must-own. Rock and Roll Racing, another game that's getting a bit pricey. This is a really fun game. Fantastic soundtrack with like rock and roll songs like Highway Star, Paranoid, songs like that. Great 2-player mode, lots of cool power-ups. I really like this game. Battletoads Double Dragon, one of my favorite games on the Super Nintendo. I love this game. It's so fun 2-player. It's the only Battletoads, or the game with the Battletoads in the name, that I actually don't think is all that hard. There's like the spaceship stage later in the game that's really difficult for me. I can't get the controls down. But this game is more in line with a standard beat-em-up game as opposed to the other Battletoads games, which had all sorts of variety in the levels. Like, there is a hoverbike stage in this game, but it's actually really easy in this one. This is a really fun game. I played it when I was a kid. Loved it then. Love it now. I'm a huge Mega Man fan, so I still had to have this, Mega Man Soccer. Even as far as soccer games go, this game's not too good, but I have to have it. I love anything Mega Man. Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. I know, player's choice version. I gotta get the original of this. What can I say? A true classic. One of my favorite 2D Zelda. Not my favorite Zelda game, but definitely my favorite 2D Zelda game. The funny thing with this is, I had played it briefly when I was a kid. I'd rented it, and I sucked at it. I didn't know what I was doing. I couldn't find the way anywhere to go. I just got lost, and I didn't like it. And then I played it on an emulator years ago, and I still didn't like it. I still couldn't get into it. I played it briefly again after that, and still didn't like it. But just a year ago now, I popped this in and tried it again, tried to get into it. And lo and behold, I did. And did I ever get into this game? I 100%ed it. I was addicted to it. I played it completely till I was fully done with it. Absolutely amazing game, and that proves just how well this game has held up over the years. Just like the soundtrack in this game is amazing. I love it. The gameplay is really fun. The dungeons are excellently designed. It's one of those games that It is maybe a bit hard to find out where you're supposed to go. It doesn't give the greatest of direction, but once you do figure out how the world works, of course, switching between light world and dark world, it becomes a really fun and engrossing game. I love this game. Street Fighter 2. I'm pretty sure most people probably have this for Super Nintendo. I played it when I was a kid. I liked it quite a bit. I still like it now, though I'm not the biggest Street Fighter fan. I prefer other fighting games like Soul Calibur and Tekken, but I do like this game. Another classic, Turtles in Time, my favorite beat 'em up ever made. Just really fun game, especially 2 players. Great, just really a charming game. I love the Ninja Turtles. The music in this phenomenal. I love this game. It's just amazing. And then finally, we have 3 games here. We've got Donkey Kong Country, Donkey Kong Country 2, and Donkey Kong Country 3. What can I say? Donkey Kong Country, I had played it when I was a kid at like a hotel. That's my only experience with it as a kid. And then I played it years after that. Phenomenal game. I really like this one a lot. I think it's the hardest out of the 3. I think the level designs are pretty brutal, and they're a lot of them are based on barrels. A lot of them are designed like shooting through barrels, and I always sucked at that kind of stuff. The soundtrack is really good. Not quite up to one of the other games I'll get to, but really great. The visuals, of course, for the time were amazing and still are now, and overall the level designs are still quite good. This is actually, though, after all saying all that, it's probably my least favorite of the 3, surprisingly. I know a lot of people really love this one. It's still a fantastic game, but I prefer Donkey Kong Country 2. This game is amazing. I love it. It's one of my favorite games on the Super Nintendo. The soundtrack is one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. Sticker Brush Symphony is one of the greatest songs I've ever heard in my life in a video game. The level designs were great and challenging and varied and interesting. I loved playing as Dixie in this game, actually. The hair spinning move, I thought, added a lot to the game. It's quite a lengthy game, tons of secrets to unlock. Just fantastic game from start to finish. And then, of course, Donkey Kong Country 3, which I really love this game as well. I didn't play number 2 as a kid, but I played this one extensively as a kid. And I just loved it. It's the easiest of the 3, I think, but it's still got a great level of challenge to it. It's got a very eclectic soundtrack. I think the soundtrack in this game is actually really good. It's quite different, as well as the different levels in this game are quite weird. And I loved what this game did with the world map. It had a fully explorable world map of tons of different secrets and hidden worlds, and I thought that was really cool. I think this game's actually quite underrated. Well, that's it, guys, for my Super Nintendo collection. As you've noticed, I'm missing quite a lot. I mean, there's so many great games for the system that I still have yet to get. What can I say? Like, you've probably noticed Super Mario World. I don't even have Super Mario World. Because, again, Super Nintendo games, I can't find them here. Most of those games that I have are from either a lot or different types of lots or straight off eBay. So I do have to end up paying the retail prices for a lot of the games I want. Super Mario RPG is one of my favorite games of all time, and I still don't have that. I gotta get Mega Man X3. That's my favorite Mega Man game in the series, the X series, and I don't have that, of course, because that game is extremely expensive. Again, there's just so many games, Secret of Evermore, Secret of Mana, Final Fantasy VI. It's just, the list goes on and on and on. The Super Nintendo is, I love it so much, and I can't wait to get some of these games that I haven't even tried before. Super Metroid, a game that's, an apparent classic. I've never even played it before. So, again, Super Nintendo, phenomenal system, and just a bunch of phenomenal games. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Comment, rate, subscribe, and see you later.